Moments are what make sports great. It's the times where you want to hug a stranger or it's tear streams down your eyes after an incredible win. It's the moments that will stand with us, whether it's 2020, 2021, or so on. And the nominees for 2020 Moment of the Year are Larry Walker, making the Hall of Fame, also known as the only good thing that happened for the Rockies this year. The Denver Nuggets with their incredible Game 7 win over the Los Angeles Clippers. Drew Lock to KJ Hamler for the walk-off touchdown against the Los Angeles Chargers, aka Butt Cheek Part 2. And finally, CSU winning the border war.
All right, now we've got the Moment of the Year. A couple of really big ones. A couple I'm curious to hear the arguments for. But before we get there, I actually think the moment of the year in Denver sports is not on any of these nominations. And it wasn't just the year in Denver sports. I think it was one of the defining moments of 2020, March 11th, 2020. And it all started with the NBA canceling a game in Oklahoma City, players being rushed off of the court, and the announcement that the NBA was postponing the season. It's crazy to think back, but that was really the first domino to fall for all professional sports, being shut down. But it was also sort of the realization of, oh, guess what? We're in a pandemic. Because at least for me, I felt like before the NBA canceled, Corona, COVID virus, I heard a little bit about it. It wasn't a big deal. Do you guys, can we go back to that date and what you were thinking? I'll start with you, Drew.
Well, it's funny. I have a very specific memory of that because I was in Arizona covering what little of normal spring training had happened to that point. And I was watching the NBA and I was on the phone with my girlfriend who was scheduled to come out and visit me for a week down in spring training. And we were having the conversation because it had been in the ether. We knew at that point that the COVID thing was real. And we were still kind of 50-50. Should she come down and visit? And then as we're on the phone, I said, Katie, they're walking off the floor. They are leaving an NBA game. And I think for the entire country, that moment was like, oh, this is real. No. There is no way these NBA guys would just be shutting this down immediately like this if they didn't have some real information. It was a moment in our history. Yeah.
It wasn't immediate. For whatever reason, they said, everything's canceled, the season's canceled, but this Nuggets game, we're gonna go ahead and finish the Nuggets game.
That was the most surreal experience after deciding, she's not gonna come down and visit, and then watching that Nuggets game. And this is so bizarre.
AJ, the NHL followed suit a couple days before. I think it was 2 days later, but can you just walk us back to that moment for you?
Yeah, I was in Pepsi Center. I had just set up my laptop to cover the Avs game that night against the New York Rangers.
Packed house.
We was a sold out arena, and I sat down, opened up my laptop, and it was like the NBA season has been canceled. And so it was sort of like a weird buzz through the crowd all night where everybody kind of knew that it was the last game. And it ended up being a great game, went into overtime. The Avs win it. And then after the game, all the players were like, they told us before the game that this was probably going to be it. And then the next day, the NHL was like, nope, we're done.
That's so wild, man. That's really wild. Well, we can move on now to more exciting moments. But when I was thinking back about moment of the year, to me, that was the moment of the year. It was the realization of, hey, this year's going to be a little different than other years in the past.
We're not going to give that an award, though, right?
But we won't give it an award in this No Goatee. Let's start with the Denver Broncos, though, RK. Walk us through the moment of the year.
Yeah, it's kind of the feel-good moment of the year for the Broncos, maybe the time where Broncos fans felt the best all season. Drew Lock and the offense, finally put it together in the fourth quarter. The 2 butt cheek touchdowns, and
you mean 2 touchdowns or both cheeks?
Well, 1 cheek. Well, 3 total cheeks. Okay. 1 on the first one, 2 on the second one.
There you go.
And it was just, I think in a season like this for the Broncos and a stretch like this for the Broncos, you have to hold on to those moments. And this one was a jump off your couch, scream, hug whoever you're around, whatever type of moment. It was that exciting. And there was still a little bit of hope. The Drew Lock bandwagon hadn't been completely derailed yet at that moment. And so I thought, okay, maybe this was a time where the team turns it around. But again, just having that comeback, especially against the Chargers, who are notorious for blowing games like that, it was a nice feel-good moment for the fans.
And amongst Broncos' historical best moments of the season, where does this one rank?
It's so hard to say because the season was so meaningless.
Right.
But, walk-off touchdowns are not common.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, you'll get your walk-off field goals, but a touchdown on the very last play of the game, the play occurred with 0 seconds on the clock because there was a penalty on the play before. So that's pretty good. That has to count for something. I would guess it's the last time a Broncos game ended on a game-winning touchdown since Demaryius Thomas did it in the playoffs. So it's pretty good. Unfortunately, it just didn't mean anything.
Justin, walk us through the border war here and just kind of set the stage for what it all means for CSU.
Yeah, the thing that made this border war victory so special is one, just the historical context. It's the longest continuous rivalry west of the Mississippi River. These teams have played every single year since the 40s. That was the last time they missed a game. I believe it was 1944. But it's a game that it means a ton to both of these communities, almost in a way that you can't really compare to a pro style beat. It's about so much more than sports. It's, literally Laramie versus Fort Collins. Community pride is on the line. And for CSU, it's been a rough half decade. Sports fans, they want to complain. Yeah, it's been tough. The only person that can maybe comprehend what we've gone through is Drew. But that was their first rivalry win in 5 years, guys. 5 years, half a decade of losing every single game that matters. Every single time you're excited for something, nothing but heartbreak. Finally, CSU gets that moment where they can just enjoy something. And on top of that, it was the only home game CSU got all season. They only got 4
That's crazy.
games total.
Yeah.
It was just one of those where, it would have mattered anyways in a normal season. But just given everything that went on, it was just that much needed cathartic release for the entire CSU Rams community.
Give us the quick, rundown of how the game went.
Yeah, and that was the thing too. CSU just totally dominated it. They come out, they open with a pick six, completely set the tone. Next possession, they force a fumble, recover it, immediately score. After that, the defensive line is just, burning down their necks all game. It was dominant. It was exciting. It was just one of those moments where it was man, I forgot that it's fun to be a sports fan.
AJ, I know the Avs didn't make the final cut here, but give us the moment that you guys nominated.
We had the 9-4 win over Nashville just because it was very personal. Matt Duchene scored to make it 3-2. He celebrated pretty wildly for a game that was 5 minutes into the second period.
He overdid it.
He overdid, and the Avs basically collectively just said, "Nah,
yeah,
we're not letting that happen." They score 6 goals in 8 minutes, blow them out, and kind of set the tone for how the year would go. They dusted Nashville, put them in the rearview mirror that day and the rest of the season, and the Predators continued to struggle while the Avs went on to nearly win the division title. So
how often do we get 9 goals in hockey?
Not very often. This Avs group is they scored 7+ 4 or 5 times last year.
Yeah.
So they're capable of it in a way that other teams just aren't.
Yeah.
I was at one of those games, and I had a 6-year-old explaining to me how long it had been since we had seen double digits, and I was ready to see it. We didn't quite get there.
Yeah, still waiting. But it's not to score that many. It's the most the Predators have ever given up in a game in their franchise history. So.
Nice. What's the football equivalent of 9 goals, RK?
Oh, man, probably 50, 60. 50. Yeah.
What about baseball, Drew?
Oh, man. That's when you're getting up there in the high teens and runs, maybe even in
18,
20. That can happen occasionally, right?
I think NBA it's probably 140, which happens maybe once a decade or so for a team. All right, Drew, walk us through your nomination here.
Yeah, so it'd be nice to have an on-the-field moment of the year for your sports ball team, and I get that. But look, even if the Colorado Rockies had gone to the first round of this wonky postseason in a 60-game year and gone out, or maybe even gone to the second round, I still think this would be your moment of the year, and that's Larry Walker getting inducted as the first member of the Colorado Rockies into the Hall of Fame. Remember, we were at that huge watch party before the DNVR bar was open. back over at Blake Street Tavern. And, we packed that joint, and it was such an atmosphere. And I remember asking that crowd on the live show before the announcement, how many people here feel like this is not just about Larry Walker, but entirely about whether or not your franchise is legitimate? And every single person in that place raised their hand. And I also think that probably 70 to 1,000% of us thought it's not going to happen tonight.
Right.
And so it was that swing of emotion. I was on TDSP that day telling people this isn't going to happen. I'm sorry, everybody. It's going to come close. He's going to fall just short. It was the fact that it was his last chance to make it 10 years in a row. If he doesn't get in now, then he's not getting into the Hall of Fame maybe 20 years down the line by some veterans committee, which is not the same. There was just so much writing on this one moment. And you go back and you look at the videos of the reaction to that. That's as big as any walk-off home run I've ever seen. It's a smaller group, but it's the level of passion, the extent to which people lost control of themselves. It meant more than just that one man in that one moment. It was validation for the 28-year existence of the Colorado Rockies.
AJ and RK, you guys are Denver sports. You follow all sports pretty closely. Just Larry Walker, where does he fit in the whole grand scheme of memorable Denver sports athletes to you two, non-Rockies guys?
Go ahead, AJ.
It's tough because there were so few great moments. You look at Todd Helton's Rockies career, and there's a couple of defining moments. Is there any better moment than him catching the final out to go to the World Series and raising exactly? See, Drew knows. Is there any better defining moment of Todd Helton's Rockies career than that? What's the defining moment of Larry Walker's Rockies career?
Probably when he put his helmet on backwards facing Randy Johnson in the All-Star game.
In the All-Star game.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He did win an MVP, winning an MVP on
right.
a team that didn't get to the postseason.
The player was great. The accolades were always there. The respect was always there. The guy got in the Hall of Fame for a reason.
Right.
But when you're talking about that emotional connection to athletes, we define them by moments. We define them by specific memories, not, do you remember Peter Forsberg's 2002 season where he won the Art Ross? That's not what we think about when we think about Peter Forsberg. We think about specific stuff that he did. And with Walker, his lacking of those moments, I think is the biggest knock against him, and probably why he's instead of the very tip-top tiers of Colorado athletes, he's probably that next tier down.
For me, it's not as much about a moment as it is about a feeling. It takes me back to being a kid, being in Coors Field and hearing Larry Walker, that's the moment for me. It's that was me falling in love with baseball, and it was Larry Walker and Todd Helton who were kind of carrying that torch. So you're right, AJ. There's not a specific moment that you look to and you say, that's the Larry Walker legacy. For me personally, his legacy is he was why that I fell in love with the Rockies as a little kid,
The last one on our list, the Denver Nuggets this year, and the moment that we nominated was the moment that it became perfectly clear that they were going to the Western Conference Finals. And it was an especially cool moment. So obviously the Nuggets coming back from 3-1 two times in a row, Game 7 against the Clippers, being down, I think, 15 points in that game. Having a massive deficit to come back in that one. And the exact moment, it's a two-play sequence. Jamal Murray up 15 points, about 3 minutes to go. You already think it's over, but if as a Nuggets fan, you never think it's over till, you have to have the final buzzer sound. Jamal Murray drains a three-pointer directly in Kawhi Leonard's eye and directly in front of the Clippers' bench. And it was the moment where it's wow, up 18, 2.5 minutes to go. An incredible shot. This is the Nuggets' night. And the next play, Denver gets a steal, throws it for the punctuation dunk by, I believe, Jeremy Grant. And Jamal Murray runs by the Clippers bench and says, "Go home," which is actually a callback to something that Marcus Morris told the Nuggets when he, in Game 4, getting in the Nuggets' face, actually Game 5, getting in the Nuggets' face and starting a little scuffle. So it was just the ultimate punctuation, the ultimate, punch back for the underdog that was no, you guys thought you had us. You thought you could talk to us. You thought you could put your feet up on the table. Not the case. And it was for a Nuggets franchise that's been in existence for 55 years and made it to the Western Conference grand total now of 4 times as an NBA franchise, it was just an absolutely incredible moment. And shouts to Nuggets videographer Taylor Vinchek for capturing video footage from the bench for that entire sequence, and it's one of the greatest videos I've ever seen.
Yeah, that one is just different. Like the exclamation point of the comeback being so perfectly defined in that little moment is so great. And like sometimes sports moments need a little bit of petty, a little punchline, and like the go home callback. It's so perfectly timed. Just thinking about it makes you just want to like clench your fists and just like scream. Like, it was just that good.
It was also, if you look at the Clippers bench in that moment, I mean, it's fun too. This is the real like where we want to get real petty. It's fun when you watch it wash over them. Like that was the moment where they're like, "Yep, we lost. We did in fact blow this thing." And it's great sometimes when you see the bully have nothing to say.
It was especially cool because like for the first time in the history of the Earth, the Los Angeles Clippers had expectations, and they were the bully. And like, here come the Nuggets, who are perpetually disrespected, and it just for them to just punch the Clippers right in the mouth, like all the superstar power, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, they'll figure it out. All the talking that group did, all the confidence and the swagger and the bravado. For me, there was nothing that really drove home that game more when I think about it than Paul George hitting the side of the backboard.
For sure.
Like,
well, just moments before that, by the way. Yeah, we actually joked about it, but yeah.
You're going down. You're not even going down swinging at that point. You just rolled over and died to the Nuggets. And it was, being a lifelong Nuggets fan has not been a very emotionally rewarding experience.
Sure. Yeah.
Just to see it go that way for once was like, yes. And
I have to
watch
say,
them just drive the stake into the heart of the entire Clippers fan base. Like, I felt a little bad because like the Clippers have been nothing but misery their whole existence.
Yeah, they have.
But they're corporate
They
soul.
talk too much.
Yeah, it was straight up like, you guys got big on yourselves, and the universe gonna smack you down sometimes.
Absolutely, a team that was sort of bought. Not that there's a right or wrong way to do this, but a team that was sort of soullessly assembled versus a team that had slowly gone through the process makes it all the more sweeter. But those are our moments of the year, guys. Yeah, it was fun. A lot of good ones.
And the winner for 2020 Moment of the Year goes to the Denver Nuggets for the incredible win over the Los Angeles Clippers.